All right, let's get our friend Spencer Hall, friend of the program, back on to Stadium and Gale. Spencer, it is a pleasure to welcome you this morning.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen.
Hey, that beard is badass, Spencer.
Speaking of an addictive chemical, that beard shows up. And it's like, okay.
I'm very disappointed to learn nicotine's an addictive chemical.
I think it's new science.
Yeah. See, this is very un-Alachua County to me. I was told that it was good for me and my children.
Just an appetite suppressant.
It's nicotine, and then you start everything else.
PED, performance enhancement drug, for sure.
That focuses the mind.
Yeah. Well, Spencer, obviously, the Florida Gators, since we last had you on the show, which I think was about 3 years ago, I have done a whole lot of nothing during that time. They fired a head coach. They brought on a new head coach, have gone under 500 for the last 2 seasons. What optimism can you bring to Gator Nation this fine morning?
None.
Okay.
Spencer, it's been great having you here. We'll move on to our next segment.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. No, we're at that stage where you just kind of look at Billy and go, what do you do? What do you do here? What is that thing that we hang your hat on? I think we can do that with most coaches and say that you do this. Florida's first opponent this year is going to be Miami. And I know what Mario Cristobal does. He recruits. And even Mario knows he shouldn't have anything to do with the rest of the show. And that's fine, because all he wants to do is recruit and text teenagers. That's fine. That's all he does all day long. I can't say that about Billy, because he doesn't recruit like Mario does, and he doesn't do as good a job. And I can't say that he's a great play caller, because it's not. There's no evidence to back that up. It'd be real cool if I could, because it's my team, and I would like to say that, but I can't. And for some reason, he's insistent on calling plays when he's not good at it. I'm not saying he's bad at it. He's mid. He's firmly mid to bad, depending on who's under center. Okay, is this a great organizational mind? I think we've seen from both the snafus at the NIL level to the constant overturn in coaches to the swollen roster of people who work for the program but have no seriously defined jobs, that he's not a great organizational mind either. I think the answer has always been to hire more people. He saw what Nick Saban did in Alabama and said, I just need to put a lot of shirts in the building. Well, there's a lot of shirts in the building and the results suck. So that's where we're at. And on top of all that, on top of going into the season with a lot of questions up and down the roster about who's going to play where and whether the level of talent really has improved. I mean, I know it's improved. Let's give the man credit for that. It's improved. Admittedly, that's coming off of a bottom-out recruiting situation under Mullen, but it's improved. But going into this year, there is the schedule. So on top of all of that, the schedule, not only, usually when we do this, what's the phrase? The schedule does us no favors. That's not accurate. Okay? This is a punishing schedule. It's punitive. It's so bad that, like, when it came out, Greg McElroy, who is not a person long on empathy towards any football program, looked at it and goes, I think this is unfair. That's how I know it's bad. Okay, when neutral to prejudiced observers look at it and go, nah, that's, what did y'all do? Who did you anger? What curse did you invoke? So I would, expectations for this year, set them as low as possible. You might be in a lame duck year. Billy might get fired. It could happen. I could see it happen. On top of all that, I didn't mention this, just in case we had this long bad news. Let's just go ahead and extend it further. Your AD should have been fired already. And he will most likely be fired in the next year. So not only do you have to replace the coach, you have to replace the entire sort of administrative superstructure above that coach. I got no good news for you. None.
How much did those Tebow years cost? Because I assume this is still just paying off the bill. I said like 2020 LSU was the cause of going to a very nice restaurant with Joe Burrow in 2019, ordering all the appetizers, fixins, and wine bottles that the restaurant had, and then walking out on the bill. And any LSU fan was like, listen, we'll pay that. No problem, as long as it takes. But Tim Tebow hasn't been on campus in nearly a decade, more than a decade, 15 years. Yeah. How long until that debt is paid off? What did Urban promise the devil for those 4 years? And when will Florida be out of that debt?
Well, first of all, the idea of anyone in Florida ever being out of debt, it's not happening. Just the entire state. Yeah. State's built on debt and fraud. So you're either committing one or you're in the other or both. I would also say this, that the idea that there is a debt to be paid implies that somebody's keeping score in college football, which isn't true. Everything could be stolen. Everything could be taken at any minute. And anyone who's acting like there's a fairness or a score system in place is wrong. Florida has no debt from any of this. Florida's just made bad decisions. You could point back and go, you messed up. You messed up over and over and over again. You messed up when it came to hiring. You messed up when it came to administration. You messed up when it came to the NIL era and how to build an NIL program initially. That's improved, but there were huge, embarrassing public missteps when it came to NIL. And you've that goes beyond the football program. That goes to overall athletic administration as well. But within the football program, if you hire this series of coaches in this order, looking backwards, every single hire has been looking backwards or looking elsewhere. Whereas everyone else who's had success, for the most part, all right, has either hired somebody with a tie to the program who really wanted it to work and was invested, or had their own vision for it. Georgia, at least they had the tie to Kirby. It was very much let's do what Nick does. All right. So they did that, but they got the guy who is an alum of the school. Okay. Particularly motivated to make it work. No backup plan. Absolutely no backup plan for Kirby. All right. There was not like a professional coach loitering around for the best offer. That's the dream job. He got it and he's killed it so far. Florida has no original ideas and has had none. What? Hired not one, but two Saban assistants. Okay.
Oh, three.
Three.
Yeah, three. Yeah, we've hired three. They tried that trick 3 times.
Yeah.
3 times.
They're not even trying at this point.
Yeah, you've tried it 3 times and it didn't take. So the 4th coming up, sure. Let's see. Like if Scott Strickland's around to make the hire, count on it. They're just going to load up, redo it. And the only time that they came up with a guy who wasn't in that tree was somebody who had already been here. Whereas we could have taken any number of talented young guys. We could have looked to talented FCS coaches, which I know that sounds insane. It's what Washington did. Worked out real well for him. And now that dude is the coach at Alabama. Okay. Go find good talent elsewhere. Go find people who have novel ideas. Go find people who do things a little bit differently. Not that there's a whole lot of different, because football coaches tend to be sort of boring and lean on the same things. But man, open a window, bring some fresh air.
My security blanket of blaming Tebow has just been snatched by a beard man in the park.
I will provide no comfort today. No. I have nothing. Yeah. I have blood, sweat, and tears. That's all I have to promise here.
The thing is, all of this is bigger than just Billy Napier.
Correct.
It's just from a lot of different standpoints. We're late to the punch on a lot of things. We were late to the punch with just before NIL was NIL. Let's just keep it all the way 100. Like there were certain programs taking care of players behind the scenes. I think we were late on that punch. We were late on the facilities. We were late on the type of staff that we're getting now. Right? That what Billy's trying to set up, that would have been fired like 2-3 years ago if he was just getting the job. But now college football is a different place, and the infrastructure he's trying to set up is already outdated. While I worked at Louisiana, it's not going to work here because you need people to be able to manage rosters on the general manager standpoint, not just, recruiting is not the same. So, I don't know what that general manager job is, but it seems to be the teams that are thriving in transfer portal are getting guys that they know are coming before they even hit the portal. So there's some tampering going on in roster management. So it just we've been late to the punch, and I don't know if it's because of a lack of resources. I just think it's a lack of care. Like, how much do we care about football? I've been saying this for a while now, but I think if University of Florida was serious, we have the resources, the money, and everything else to make it go. I just don't know if that's what may have cost us the Tebow years. We're saying the Tebow year, maybe the Aaron Hernandez years. There, some of that energy that was brought to the program. I don't know if people really want to be good at football anymore.
I don't know if you have to go full Aaron Hernandez to be good at football.
No, but I mean, I think
in that era, it's a lot of bad press from that time. Go ahead.
But I think it goes back to all the way back to Charlie Pell, right? And Florida getting in trouble. To Florida's kind of always played this black and white, not in the gray area. Obviously, Steve Spurrier, Spencer mentioned him. Obviously, connection back to University of Florida, gets Florida their first national championship, really puts them on the map. The issues with Ron Zook kind of come up, and and a lot of people could look back and say, man, we would love consistent 8 and 9 win seasons, but he was also having guys fighting fraternity members at their frat house, right? So
That's the
then you have
energy you
Urban
need.
To be
Meyer.
fair, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is
that's
awesome, right? I'd
Like-
love to see
like-
that passion, right?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
like
Shout out to Frank Delatorre, my dad. That was his fraternity. He, of course, a little bit
Spike?
older.
Of course it
Yeah.
was.
No, I think it was
It was Pi Kappa,
Pi
wasn't
Kappa
it?
Alpha.
Yeah.
Pi Kappa Alpha,
Yeah.
not, or
No, Pi Kappa Phi.
Phi. Pi Kappa Phi, not Pike. Dad wasn't there.
Frank's a Pike?
Yeah, no, not a Pike. He's Pike would be
Oh,
Pi
Pi
Kappa
Kappa.
Alpha. He's a Pi Kappa.
He's Pi Kappa Phi. He's Pi Kappa
Yeah.
Phi.
like I've told Ron Zook that in person that it was awesome. So like
yeah, that was
I
awesome.
will keep it a buck with him. Yeah.
So then you had Urban Meyer. You sold out everything for that. Then you had Will Muschamp, who couldn't figure out the offensive side of the ball. Then you had quite possibly the weirdest head coach in college football history in Jim McElwain. Then you kind of figure something out a little bit with Dan Mullen. Then COVID happens and he goes into some downward spiral. And then obviously nothing about Billy Napier so far has like seemed to connect, right? Like recruiting is getting better, but it's still not where you want it to be. You finish 10th in the country and you're still like 7th in the SEC, right? So you talk a little bit about, Nick was talking about resources and everything else. I mean, if you look at the staff that Florida has, and a lot of you guys would be very surprised to see how much money a lot of those staff members are getting. I don't think it's a resource thing. I think it's, do you have the right people in the right positions to be able to continue to move your team forward? And right now it's been an abject and loud no.
I don't know that Florida's ever committed more resources to football. Like the effort to win games from the administration side in terms of like just throwing cash at the problem. I don't think it's ever been higher. But it's I think Florida also was behind the times in the neighborhood. They had the worst house on the neighborhood for a while, and then they called in like the home improvement. But by the time you got, Ty Dillingham or whatever his name was from Extreme Home Makeover to come to Gainesville, it's like, hey, we're paying players legally now. So you can use all that money on new buildings, but everyone else has that, and now they're going to be paying players. And you're like, wait, what? Pay players? We need weights. We need infrastructure.
We're still practicing under the Ben Hill Griffin stands.
Florida reminds me a lot of, if you read old interviews with Eminem, I think he's different now, but there was a period where like after he was crazily successful, he kind of just stayed in his house for a while and didn't learn anything. You got so rich you didn't have to learn. You got so successful you didn't have to try. So there's this interview and somebody's showing him that you can look at pornography on the internet. And he's like, wow, I didn't know that. It's like 2012. And so he's like, you can get this on the internet. And he's like, what? That's crazy.
And
I can get rid of all these tapes. Yeah.
These magazines, these VHSs.
Yeah. These cassettes. Yeah. That was Florida, for a long time. And again, I agree. I don't think resources are an issue.
Right.
I think it's management at this point. And if you want to see proof of concept, I don't know. Maybe we'll see it in year 3. Honestly, if you see proof of the Billy Napier concept against this schedule, keep it.
Yeah.
Keep it. Like if you see, 9-3 come out of this. Oh, buddy, extend
It
it.
could be a playoff team at 9-3 with this schedule.
That's right. That's right. If that's the case, then go ahead. But unless you are prepared to make a Jim Harbaugh-sized bet on this man, which is, I'm going to win a title in year 9. That's what, again, I don't think people really understand how insane what Michigan did was. They were like, we're going to stay with this man for 9 years until he wins us the national title. We'll stay with them for like 6 or 7 before he gets us an outright Big Ten title. That's nuts. That's
Jim
insane.
Harbaugh evolved from Dockers to Lululemon khakis in the time he was given.
He had long enough to learn how to wear a new kind of clothing, which this is a podcast of all men here.
Yeah.
That's a huge step.
Dan Mullen's still wearing pleats to this day.
That man rides you know what? I think he's on flat fronts now. TV talked him into flat fronts.
I can see that. I can see that. You can't wear
I'd be
him in the
surprised if
bottom,
he
right?
had like
No
a bathing
pleats
suit
in St.
under
Lucia.
his, sitting at the desk in like a bathing suit, just ready to, pop up in a Celsius and hit the lake.
Spencer, what if you're Florida, what's kind of the record, or what do you want to see an improvement out of them to be potentially buying into the Billy Napier experiment here at the University of Florida.
God, you have to be better on defense.
Yeah.
I just you have to have some sort of notion of what you're doing on defense. I understand we have a lot of young staffers who are very excited and very, very, very eager to do their job. It would be cool if they did it. And it would be cool if you saw the lines get better. And that goes defense and offense. Offense and defensive line, if that is what you want to do, and that is what Billy Napier wants to do, then you have to at least start to see that develop in year 3. I don't care. Honestly, like I go back and watch a tape. I don't care if it's in a loss. I really don't. Like, as long as like skill players, they'll come. That's fine. We can develop that. They have to look better at the line of scrimmage because they got bullied at times last year. And I know that's also an S&C thing. I know that's a strength and conditioning thing. I know that turnover at the strength crew, that happened for a reason, but that has to happen along the lines of scrimmage. That's it. And then in the year has to finish on an upward trajectory. It has to. There's just
I don't see it happening.
I don't know. No, I have a
sunshine
definition of that upward trajectory.
Okay? Yeah. Because
if
Florida
we
could
went
start 6-0 and finish 6-6.
That's, you know what, like, I don't think that's fine, but like, it depends on how those last 6 games land. I know it's going to be hard and a struggle, but I will also say this. We're assuming everybody in those last 6 games has got their business together. Right. That's really stupid to do in college football.
Sure.
We should not do that. Right. Like, oh yeah, all 6 of those teams are going to be good. What about any of this makes you think everybody's uniformly competent? Right. Look at that. So somebody's going to blow up on the launch pad. Somebody's going to injure their quarterback. Somebody's going to turn out in those first 6 games to be way better than you think they are. And somebody in those last 6 is absolutely going to tank. Right. If that weren't true, Jimbo Fisher would still be at Texas A&M. Right. So I wouldn't project that hard. It's a brutal schedule. It might be brutal in ways that are different than you anticipate.
My thing is just we've seen Billy coach for a couple of years now. And I don't see that vastly improving from last year to this year. And I don't see the Jimmies and Joes. I didn't see an influx of talent in the transfer portal. There's another window, but I don't think we've received enough talent to overcome our coaching woes on the field. So I'm expecting it to, unless something different happens between now and fall, I'm not expecting a whole lot as far as product on the field.
I think this. Well, I go back when you talk about offense and defensive line. Everyone points to, well, the first year the offensive line was so good, and I say, well, you had an actual created player at quarterback who was very hard to sack, and an All-American, like a unanimous All-American right guard. Maybe the line wasn't good. Maybe you had one really good player and a quarterback who was just really hard to sack, and that helped the running game because now you have to play 11 on 11. So I don't know that the offensive line even was good that first year, or if it was just 2 players, one quarterback and one very excellent lineman that made everyone else look good. And then you saw what they really were last year when you didn't have that kind of mobile quarterback. And then the defensive line, I thought the world of Sean Spencer. Obviously, Florida did. They paid a very big buyout for a position coach from Duke just to even get him here. And then he's the first head on the chopping block. Not to say that the defensive line played so well that he should have stayed, but there is a bunch of turnover. I don't know that you'll get much change on offense, but I think when Billy Napier looked, if you believe him when he says we do a self-evaluation, a rigorous self-evaluation after every year, his moves tell you offense wasn't the problem. Special teams wasn't the problem. It was defense. He had never fired an assistant coach in 6 years of being a head coach, and he fired 2 defensive coaches after this last season. So I wouldn't expect huge sweeping changes on offense, but I do think you get Graham Mertz back. There's a long history of transfer quarterbacks having a big jump in year 2 of the system after transferring. And I look at the roster and I think, hey, this might be the best collection of talent that Billy Napier has had. But also, the schedule makers with their axe to grind, as you already pointed out, Spencer. So it might be the best roster you have, but I don't know that it might not show in the win-loss record.
Might not matter. Might not matter at all.
Yeah, I don't even know what the best team in college football, maybe not Georgia, but you take that next 4 through 12, I don't know if any of them you could theoretically say would go better than 9-3, right? Maybe 10-2, but just based on the amount of potential that's on that schedule, right? And Spencer makes a good point. You just don't know, is FSU going to be a top 15 team? They're going to be ranked in the top 15, but we don't know. They lost a lot, right? Ole Miss still has to put things together. There's a lot of programs that have to put things together, but I just don't know, even if you had one of the best rosters in college football, if you could expect to go 9-3 or better. And I think that Florida has huge holes on the offensive line. I don't think that they got better. I think that you have a lot of good young stars, like 4 and 5 star players that still haven't proven that ability, right? Can they make that next jump up? But now Florida's going to be looking for a new strength and conditioning coach because they just had one for 5 weeks and he's like, I'm going to Boston College. So you kind of set things back a little bit more. And now you institute a new strength and conditioning coach. Now you're starting to lose some time here. And what should be your strength and conditioning coach is your most important coach for 60% of the year, right? So Florida has got to figure it out and figure it out quickly because there's a very, very tight leash on Billy Napier. And I don't know. My wind in my sails has been lost.
No, I mean, like, there's a chase and we can cut to it. This is a lame duck year. Like, that's it. Like, if you want, like, brass tacks, this is a lame duck year, and you need to start thinking about who's next. And you need to go ahead and start writing off the Billy era as we recruited really well, or at least better than the previous guy. I've got the program in a slightly better spot. Certainly got a lot more nameplates in the offices and began to prime the pump for what looks like a decent NIL and administrative foundation. And thank you, on to the next guy. That's it. This is another blown 3 or 4 years. And if you give him another 4, I don't think he's going to be a different coach. Because again, not a great enough recruiter to keep, not a great enough play caller to keep, not a good enough manager to keep. Really nice dude, not up to the job.
You think Strickland goes first?
Yeah, I hope so.
He
should already be gone. Frankly, and that has nothing to do with football. That has to do with other things that have happened under his watch. So he's got to be gone.
So if he's not going, say by like October rolls around and Strickland's still here, but we're losing, like, you think both at the same time? Like, I don't think they let him make the next hire.
They can't. So, and if he makes a good hire, it would be by accident, right? and if he makes a bad hire, it would be intentionally. That's a good sign that you can't keep the dude. So, and he should be gone anyway for a lot of other reasons. So once he's gone, do you
anticipate him leaving before the fall?
I would love that. That'd be great. But like, again, if you're trying to parse the decision making at the University of Florida right now, given who's in charge and given everything that's happening within the state that has nothing to do with football, good luck. I have absolutely no idea. There's shoulds and there's wills. And the shoulds are pretty clear. The wills are vague.
Spencer, who do you got in the national championship this year?
Oh, man. It is one day after the Super Bowl.
I know.
Listen, you should have this figured out by February 12th.
Yeah.
You're a degenerate.
What was it?
I love it.
Like 180 days, 189 days until we kick off in Ireland, right? Ready for the fighting, Seminoles to battle the fighting Herb Streets, right? They're ready to square up in the middle of Dublin.
It would be very, very funny to me if you had an Ohio State-Texas matchup in the final, and then as a result of that Ohio State-Texas matchup, Ohio State lost again. That would be extremely funny to me, because that's the team that can't get over in Texas and is perpetually overrated, getting over on the team that wants to be over more than any team in the nation, the team that has thrown the most money at the problem, the team that has gone and taken a head coach to be their OC to fix their problems, and has got the transfer quarterback, went and got him, has the biggest fundraising day of their lives after the Michigan game, because they don't want that to happen again. They've lost Harbaugh. The lane is clear. They can go. I will take Ohio State and Texas, and then I'll have Texas beat them because that's a funnier and crueler ending.
So then you'd have new Florida football head coach Ryan Day.
That's right. Bring him on down. We can finally get Chip on the cheap.
You could do
There you go.
worse.
Get Chip on the cheap.
Get Chip on the cheap. There you go.
Yeah,
So we can get another mediocre
Ryan Day
recruiter.
coached at Florida, right? Years ago, eons ago. He could bring Mark Pantoni down with him.
Sure.
See, bring
it's all
Mark
come together.
Pantoni back.
I've been
I have
hearing
nothing-
Mark Pantoni for like a decade now, man. That dream is dead.
All right, let's do this. I'm gonna be rude as a guest and dictate the pace here for one question here. Who are you getting? Because like I would love Billy to work out. I just don't see a lot of evidence for that. Right? If anyone's watching this and they're like, God, he's such a hater. I'm like, I understand. I love this dude. It's just not working, and there's no evidence to point that it is going to work. Okay. The rest, for the faith-based fan, please go do that. There's no football god to me. Okay. You only have what's on the field. All right.
Better get unfollowed, Spencer. That's all.
Yes. You go unfollow me, support Stadium and Gale. But
who are you hiring if Florida is hiring next fall?
Oh God.
Is it true that Jed Fish interviewed at UCLA like
he said
days
no.
ago?
No,
he said no. I know there was a rumor going around.
He said categorically no.
Okay.
Like
I think he would interview at Florida. Come back home.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, but Florida then would owe Billy Napier what, 27 million, give or take? Then you'd have to buy out of Washington.
Investigation.
We're committed to throwing money at the problem, Dan. How committed are we?
Throw it at the players.
Yeah. No, let's throw money at the players, not at Billy. Firing for cause for the NCAA investigation. That's the Machiavellian thing to do, is to say, hey, let's talk about reducing your buyout before it gets ugly. Because sentiment goes out the door when you're talking about that many zeros. If I had to hire anybody, like straight out the gun, it's real hard to dislike what Jed Fish did at Arizona. It's and he's got connections. So like that would be the first name that came to mind. And if I heard me saying this 3 years ago, I would have slapped me. But man, he like fun football, extremely aggressive. I think he's still got plenty of upside and was a good recruiter for what they do at Arizona. Well, it'd be interesting to see what he does at Washington, but like that'd be go. Also, fresh air, like somebody who's not currently in the constellation.
But I mean, between us, we all know it's going to come from like whoever the head coach is at, Texas Tech or
UTSA had a great year. Let's see who's their coach. One thing I mentioned it, Florida Georgia last year, and I don't think it's a prerequisite to winning that game. But when you look at Georgia's rosters, there's a bunch of dudes who played at Georgia and had a hard time beating Florida, and that game is like deeply personal to them. And I think it kind of goes to what you were saying earlier. Like Florida hasn't hired a Florida man. Not in that realm, not in those headlines, but a guy who went to the University of Florida. Like, listen, I'm sure Billy Napier and his staff want to beat Georgia. Will Muschamp would crawl over shards of glass to beat Florida as the coach of the Georgia Bulldogs, and the same with Kirby. And maybe you do need a guy who comes in and knows what Florida is and what the glory days were, and it is deeply personal to them, because unless it is at the college level, then you're coaching for paychecks, and the paychecks are nice and the buyouts are even nicer.
But I don't even know if Florida has those pedigree people. I mean, Jed Fish is obviously one, but he's going to be in the Big Ten, making a bunch of money. Do you go and chase that dream? Right. I know Jed Fish went to UF. I don't know how much like his affinity is towards the University of Florida, right? Like we talk about a lot of former players. They're like, why doesn't Phil Trotwine come back? It's like, because he's from the Northeast. Why, just because he went to school here doesn't mean there's the same affinity. There seems to be that connection that Georgia has, and a few other schools have it too. I don't know if Florida has the pedigree of coaches of who's that next guy now, but
just give me somebody.
Dion. You said prime, baby. Give me prime. I think the turnover, not all the way prime. I'm 50-50 on prime as a coach, right? Some things I like, some things I hate. But I think as far as being able to keep players from entering the portal and bouncing and having a mass exodus, I think he's the type of coach to keep a roster intact.
He would be good. There's another one that's interesting, and I don't know if he would do it, but he's been very impressive so far. And that's Dan Lanning. And
I mean,
yeah,
I just
then again,
that's the guy. That's the guy.
That's a
We're
contested
not
poll,
going
though.
to get no damn Lanning.
Like,
man.
Dan-
No, but now he does go against my rule of
Yeah.
like new blood, because he's
Right.
He's a Saban guy, but he's aggressive, and I like that.
I mean, obviously it was Oregon putting it out on purpose, but like when they were playing Colorado and Colorado was being portrayed as the actual Monstars come out of the silver screen and put onto a football field, the stuff he was telling his team in the locker room that, leaks out. I'm watching that and I'm like, that's the dude. That's the guy.
Yeah. I would have really liked that. He's petty. Petty is good. I like petty and vengeful. I think that just makes a program better. I think that makes college football better. So I guess those would be my two sort of initial leans. But like by the time the season rolls out and you see who's doing well and who's sort of coming up, I just don't want to do the same thing. Let's just
But here's a question. With the way that things are going, the Big Ten, it's not a Power 5, it's a Power 2.
Mhm.
If you're a head coach of a Power 2 team, why are you leaving to go to another Power 2 team? You're in Oregon. You've got that kind of neck of the woods, complete, like maybe even all of California, outside of Los Angeles. Recruiting wise, you've got all of that cut out for you. You're going to be getting Big Ten money. The people over there, you have 4, 7, and 5 years in a row. They're like, it's been a little tough. We'll get them next year. You come to Florida and you don't have 4, 7, and 5 years in a row at Florida. Like, you've got it really good at Oregon. Why? What would Dan Lanning need to leave Oregon? Because he just told Alabama no. Even though I do say you don't want to be the guy that follows the guy. You want to be the guy that followed the guy who followed the guy. So I wouldn't have wanted to follow Nick Saban either. I
think he'd be fine following up Billy Napier. I think that's a slightly different constellation than following up Nick Saban. Just comparing, just putting the rosters and the schedules together. And yeah, I'm going to say, I feel comfortable saying that. The actual answer is when you go, well, why would he leave? And I go, I think Washington is a harder job than people think. No, I'm sorry. Oregon. I'm on like 3 hours sleep, y'all. But yeah, I think Oregon is a harder job than people think. And I think the expectations are, a little tougher than you think. Not that you'd be going to a job with any lower expectations. With Oregon, you do. That's when I say it's a contested poll, what I mean is you're going to have to fish him out of there. And he would probably have to have some sort of administrative motivation to leave. It's a low margin poll, right? Jed Fish, probably be a little bit easier. Bit easier. I think Washington is a tougher job. You've seen the floor at Oregon is like 7 wins, right? 7-6 wins. They're that good. They're that deep. They're consistently that good. The floor at Washington is 0. And the floor at Washington is 1. We've seen that pretty recently in their history.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see who those next names are, because they always pop up out of nowhere. Or it's going to be that one coach that gets hot quickly, right? Billy Napier was kind of a name that people talked about for a while, but took him a little bit. Then he had that one final year at Lafayette where it's time to make that jump. So I've never seen Florida pull a coach from a big program. So until they do that, yes, Urban Meyer came from Utah. Utah is really good in 2004, but Utah is not what Utah is now. Right. So I've never seen Florida go big game hunting in any sport for the most part. Football, basketball, baseball.
Kyle Whittingham has been there since Urban left.
Man,
I've covered 4 coaches. I didn't even cover Urban. I'm on my 4th coach. Kyle Whittingham has been at Utah since Urban left.
Dude, everyone's been at Utah. Go look at their staff.
Yeah.
Go to the site. Go look at their staff. Go look at how long all of them have been there. Andy Ludwig is the newcomer, and I think he's been there 6 years.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. Like everybody, their strength coach, that was his first job. like his first
Wow.
head strength coach job, all the way back in like 2006, 2005. Like
Good
that's
quality of life out there.
no one leaves. Absolutely no one leaves. You know, their
Because the
defensive
streets
coordinator.
are so wide, you can't even cross them. Just
Yeah.
unbelievable streets out there.
Why would you, man? You know, what you can go to Park City like after
it was
work.
pretty. It was
Yeah.
pretty out there.
Yeah, the East Coast is trash. Like this is what you have to learn.
Yeah. I'm in Vancouver right now. Heading up
that's
to
right.
Whistler in a few hours. So let's see. Any final questions, boys? Spencer, we appreciate you spending 40 minutes of time with us this morning. Any final questions?
Yeah,
No.
just the opening game. I think it's an interesting 3 years for Florida. You just keep getting these really interesting season openers. I wrote a story that came out this morning. It was picking 5 games, and I just kind of got stuck on Miami. Those 2 coaches are tied because they were both hired the same year. How does the loser of that game sell hope to their fan base? Because I feel like they're both kind of in that same boat where fans are like, I'm looking for a reason to get behind you. Please give me a reason to fully buy in. And then you lose to Kentucky and you lose to Vanderbilt. And you're like, well, I can't. How does the loser of Florida Miami sell hope outside of Florida, winning the rest of their games that year?
You hope everyone forgets the game happened. That usually happens in game 1. It's much easier to forget game 1 than it is to forget game 8 or game 10. So that's really the only advantage, because it's pretty dire for either team on either side. Someone's leaving this game in a world of hurt. And especially if Miami loses it in the manner that Mario Cristobal has lost games, if they come in and Mario Cristobal runs out of timeouts with 3 minutes left and needing to get down the field and badly botches that, then you're having the same nightmare over and over again. That would be bad. Florida, I don't know. We got a whole lot of different ways we can lose it. Maybe we don't score. Maybe we turn it over. Maybe we maybe we allow a long TD. Maybe we miss a couple of field goals. We have a variety of ways to be disappointed. I don't know if that's better or not, but that's how it works.
It does seem like the paralysis by analysis bowl. I would go early betting line, take the under. There might be a total of 56 plays run with how quickly these coaches make decisions on the sideline.
Yeah, that's okay. Each coach has 30 different analysts up in the booth to help them take the entire play clock to call off tackle. Yeah.
It's got to be the hot seat bowl, right? Like whoever loses is now the number 1 coach on the hot seat, right?
Yeah, I don't even know if Mario feels it at this point. He's just kind of used to it.
Yeah. It's kind of Mario's MO, right? I mean,
the more I talk about him, the more I admire Mario. And then he's like, I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't work. I don't know. I'm not going to change a lot. Just going to keep recruiting and hiring guys. Let's see how it works.
Spencer, before we head out, I got a super chat here from JP. We kind of talked a little bit about this, but what's the floor for Billy? Like, things might work. I know you said it might not be wins and losses. It might be the manner of wins and losses. But for the sake of this question,
I would say 8-4. And that is a huge ask against this. But that is based on the previous 2 years. All right. Because I don't know. You could end up at 7-5, and that could feel somewhat accidental. 8-4 would be, we did that on purpose. That's the main thing I want. Let's see. I want to see that you did something on a football field on purpose and with design and executed it. That's it. Have a plan.
First
Make it clear.
Got you.
You don't know that they didn't purposely design a play with 10 guys on special teams for a field goal block.
Oh, yeah. How about that? Get the basic things right. Like do the thing you talk about. Execute. Go ahead and execute. Do that.
They so for me, and you've said it's not the numbers, but
I miss being good, guys.
7-5 leaves you under 500 for your first 3 years. You would
7-5.
You would need a bowl win to get to 8-5, and just to be 500 after 3 years.
Yeah. So just proof of concept, or it's time to cut bait.
Yes, sir.
I miss Stadium and Gale back in the day when we were talking about playing in the Orange Bowl and winning the Orange Bowl, and those are the days, Silk.
Yeah, I miss those days, man.
It feels like Adam Lane's game-worn Birmingham Bowl pants of late.
It does. Shout out to Mark Thompson. He's currently grifting his way into multiple people's inboxes with a game-worn stuff. But Spencer, we really appreciate your time this morning. Let everybody know. I know I'm sure everybody knows who you are and follows you, but let everybody know where they can follow you.
You can follow me on Twitter. I ain't calling it X at EDSBS. You can subscribe to the Channel 6 newsletter, which is in my bio on X, Twitter. But Channel 6 is the newsletter. You can Google it. It's real good. There's a free version and there's a paid version. I think you should pay for it because it's real good, but that's just me. You can also listen to the Shutdown Fullcast, and where with my co-hosts Holly Anderson, Jason Kirk, and Ryan Naney, we sometimes talk about college football. And then you can follow along with me on Big Dumb Football on ESPN's college football YouTube channel, where we do fun videos about football.
I love it. I love it. And Spencer, we appreciate you coming on this morning. We will talk with you soon. Have a great rest of your Monday, and we'll chat soon, my friend.
All right. Thanks, y'all.